ever watch Loveline back in the day
Yo,
with Dr. Drew?
he used to be my jam. And who was it? Adam Carolla?
Adam
I think was the
Carolla,
other guy.
yeah. Was he
Yeah.
always on it? Because he was always like some kind of revolving guest. But yeah,
Yeah, I think the only time I watched it was when it was Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla. But yeah, I think I do remember that he had like reoccurring guests. Because if I'm not mistaken, Loveline went on, might still be going on, but I know it went on for like a
possibly.
long time.
I think when it was, because it was syndicated heavy back in the day, but back before we had, I guess maybe before our radio was that up and popping, where we had to get syndications from other places, just like CNN or TV back in the day, for example. That shit wasn't 24/7. You know, there's like a certain point where you just click off and you just see those rainbow bars.
Yeah, you get the national anthem would play or whatever, and then they would show the Air Force flying the airplanes, and it'd be like spinning off America, and then it go to the fucking screen for like 2 hours, and then come back on Little House on the Prairie be on.
Damn, it's taking it back.
Yeah, I mean, taking it back.
Before the WB was a WB, aka the Black Folk Network. Oh no, that's what they said about UP Channel 45. I don't even know.
UPN.
UPN.
That was the other one. Yeah, targeting the African American demographic. As of the 90s, they realized, oh wait, black people watch TV too. Let's give them some shows, man. Yeah.
You know, Negroes eat dinner at midnight, right? So they gotta be up late.
And that reminds me, because we were just talking about this earlier, about the Netflix series that they have.
Oh, decades?
Yes, based off of the decades. They have the 90s series, they have the 80s, and then they have the 70s series. And me and the wife, Skips, have been on it. Like, it's just dope to be able to see, because, of course, like, I was born in the 80s. I was a youngster in the 80s or whatever. I was much older in the 90s, but I was still, like, a teenager or whatever. But it's good to see that overall, like, view of how things came to be. And the one thing that was super dope watching the 80s one that like really like messed my mind up was I was too young to really understand the AIDS epidemic. Boy, on the 80s episode when they started talking about that, was that something else. That I get why everyone thought the world was coming to an end. Like, that was horrifying. I couldn't imagine living through that in real time. Like, oh my God, people are dying. We can't figure out, because at first they thought it was the gays. They were like, oh, snap, the gays are dying. This is gay disease passing around. And then it was like, oh, wait,
Drugs.
Celebrities are starting to get it. And then it was like, oh, regular people are starting to get it. There's no cure, and just people are dropping like flies, and we don't know what to do. Insane.
Do you think because we made jokes about this back in the previous show where we would say, you know, Ebola, or maybe I'm thinking Chappelle, he was like, Ebola is just the new AIDS. Like, in the most truest sense, so it is, because again, it's another epidemic, something to get people frazzled and worried about, something that probably could be cured, but will it? You know, like, do you ever believe, and I guess we've gone to conspiracy theory in this essence before, but do you feel like that could be a way of crowd control?
So I think it's a strong possibility. I mean, there's a lot to it, because there's the possibility that it is man-made engineered. I do remember in the 5th grade, I remember learning about AIDS in the 5th grade. Our science book, they talked about AIDS, and I don't know why, but I just remember being in the 5th grade and reading that and thinking to myself, man, that looks man-made. Like, and I wasn't even I didn't understand what a conspiracy was back then, but this is in the 5th grade, me reading what it does and how it works. I was like, man, that sounds like somebody cooked up. And
what would make you think that it was man-made though? Because I believe to the truest word anomaly of people, but what made you think that it was man-made?
So it was how they explained how, like, first off, the design of it, it kind of looked like our old spaceships back in the day, how it showed like the head with the legs or whatever. And it was talking about how it attaches to the cell and it does this. And just from my limited understanding of the world and things, I just remember in the 5th grade reading the paragraphs on it. I was like, that sounds like something somebody created. Like, I don't know, something about it just seemed engineered. And then I was just gonna say, and then the fact that it attacked, you know, the party gay community, if you will, in America, and then it attacked all the African demographic. It did for a long time look like, hey, somebody might have planted this, might have engineered this.
One of the things that always tripped me out, and you know, there's, I'm sure as our listeners hear this, you know, we know that drugs and AIDS, they say there would have been a way to target the black community as well as the gay community. Why not knock out a bunch of minorities and try to wipe them out, right? If that, in that let's say we entertain that thought, right? In that entertainment of belief, do you think that they couldn't have estimated or guessed how much of the pure, let's call them pure white breads, you know, were also a part of that? Like, do you think that if that was the case, they totally didn't fucking foresee that, you know, their purest of whites was included amongst those folks, that they got lumped up in with it? Like,
so that's why I have a hard time
or am I stretching for straws?
No, I get what you're coming from, because that's why I have a hard time diving super deep into the conspiracy, because it's the same thing when people talk about chemtrails. Oh, they're spraying stuff in the atmosphere, it's killing us all. Well, it's going to kill them too. So like that's the part that's hard to wrap. Like, okay, like they could be engineering this for crowd control, but it's going to kill them as well, unless there's some secret vaccination that they have that then they're immune to it, and then they can put this in air. I don't know. That's getting like super deep. That's a lot of rabbit holes to hop into. Yeah. But the other thing though that I found fascinating was being a fan of the Joe Rogan podcast. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, but it was a guy that went on there, and this was like a year or two ago. No, this was probably like 2-3 years ago. He went on there and he has a completely different take on it. He thinks that not necessarily that AIDS is a man-made disease. His thought process is that it's not a sexually transmitted disease. His thought process is it's actually someone's immune system completely decaying and falling apart. And how he broke down, he did the science where he was like, if it's a STD, STDs, there's like a mathematical equation of how STDs grow over time. And so he was like doing the math. He was like, by now, like half of the world should have AIDS or whatever, or before they, you know, kind of started getting the control of the AIDS or whatever, half the people in the world should have caught it. So he was like, mathematically, it doesn't make sense as an STD. And then he was saying, if you look at how it attacked the party scene in the 80s with the homosexuals, and how it attacked the Africa or whatever, he was like, those people have bad immune systems because the party lifestyle in the 80s, it was a lot of drugs. It was a lot of them doing a whole lot of drugs and all that. And then in Africa, and the parts that hit, it was these people who are malnourished, who aren't healthy to begin with. And so he was like, I think what it is, he was like, it's not an STD, you have sex and then you get AIDS. He was like, it's these people who their immune system has failed on them, and then they get this disease that then they cannot cure from there. It's because their immune system completely crashed. And it's feasible. It's possible. Quite possible. Because I don't know. And I mean, we would need to do more research, and then you would need to, like, we really need to deep dive with everyone who has AIDS, like what their lifestyle, like I know Eazy-E, when he got it within the hip hop community, that woke us up, and Eazy was known to raw dog a whole lot, but also I want to know what was his drug habits like. I know
his drug of choice,
but like, what was he doing? Like,
yeah. Really quickly, just on AIDS and the hip hop community, I heard, and I'm sure you have, that Drizzy Drake don't ever like to wrap it up. Now, that's not hard to believe, right? I mean, who the fuck does? That's just like saying, oh, cake is good with frosting.
Yes, I have heard that too. And to quote the infamous Pusha T, you are hiding a son. Surgical Summer. Oh, it was great. It was great.
Yo. Because you had put me on to the podcast. I guess we was talking about that. What was your take? The fact that there was him saying that he got it from 40. 40 is what, his producer or something, or
yeah, like
who's 40 to the equation?
Engineer. Yeah, he's like Drake's producer engineer.
Because I remember hearing, and I think this is one of his biggest singles, maybe God's Plan. He said some shit about, without 40 there would be no me. So yeah. I'm guessing that's just like respect to the utmost, saying that, you know, without his engineer, you know, the people who do the hard work, you know what I'm saying, as far as mixing and mastering.
Yeah, essentially, because 40 producer / I think he engineers a lot of that, so he's basically kind of the main technical brain behind Drake. So that's who 40 is. So 40 plays a integral role, just like going back to Jay-Z and the Blueprint, how that was Just Blaze and Kanye West. And so yes, it's Jay-Z that was kicking that hot fire, but it was Just Blaze and Kanye West who were producing and came up with that sound, which helped the direction of it. And so that's the thing with 40, whatever he does with Drake's vocals, that's the reason why that's always the joke, is that Drake sounds better when he's in the studio with 40, because 40 knows that EQ or that auto-tune preset that everybody else don't know, that make it sound the way it's supposed to sound. So
my boy, we'll call him Massa Bruce, he definitely is one of those types. He's one of those guitar heads to where he can hear a riff and know the notes. Like I always have mad respect for people who can do that. And anyways, so one thing he does, just being an audio head or audiological person, I don't forget what the terminology for it is. Yeah. Well, no, that, but there's like an Autodelphia or something. Anyways,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, he does that for his boys, his little brother's crew or what have you. And so one thing he's always doing, he's always fishing, not only for plugins and shit like that, but also like how these motherfuckers plug and play these things. So again, he'll hear one thing and then no octaves to whatever for EQ settings, which again, there's mad YouTube videos out there that also show the same shit. But there is something though about, again, what he does for Drake, just how Mixed by Ali and what he does, knowing fucking all Kendrick Lamar's crazy ass fucking rabbit holes of of your things. But really quick, because I know we're kind of getting off what we were just talking about, and 80s and AIDS, and the fact that it still exists today, and we have motherfuckers like the Scarelli guy who just amped up the fucking pricing on the drug cost. And I wanted to just throw out there just because of how fucked up it was. I think I don't know, that's just a horrible way to go into the show. But there's his dude in Thailand. He was some kind of soldier, and he was certified having AIDS, and he was coercing motherfuckers online, going on dates, whatever. I'm guessing he was catfishing, and he would get them to send him nudes. So then when he would meet up with them, obviously, I'm guessing he wasn't the pretty buff, whatever added commercially pretty version of a gay guy when meeting them. So once that would happen and they wouldn't want to give it up, he would then threaten them, saying, well, you sent me nudes, I'm going to show it to your family, or all this dishonorable things that happen in every culture, and then get them to give up the booty. And I just thought how terrible, because the headline wrote HIV tested man spreading AIDS to teens, and I was like, oh, that's bad. The next day, I guess it comes up again, and then it goes teen boys, and I'm like, oh, that's terrible. What is it? And again, maybe is it just because I'm a band? But what is it that just makes it sound even more terrible? It was already terrible to begin with. Don't get me wrong.
No, that's absolutely horrible. I know, and
but then is it because we have boys, and it just you figured that wouldn't be a worry of ours?
I think that is the case of you run into a lot of that, where there's a lot of things where everything is just kind of random stuff that happens in the universe until it's something close to you, if you will.
So it's close to home, so to speak.
So it's close to home. And actually, one example that I really like to, so with race in America, one of the fine points is like there's a lot of where African Americans are like, oh, police treat us like this happens to us, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of the other side like, oh no, that doesn't happen to me, so it doesn't happen to anybody. Now a lot of it just comes down to, things have to hit close to home for things to kind of like resonate with you. Right. And I'll never forget when the Trayvon Martin thing happened. I'll never forget, me and Skips weren't married at the time just yet, but I want to say she was pregnant. Either she was pregnant or
at least
just had Kai. I can't remember. It was around that.
Because Kai was about 1 year old when we started doing the show, I think.
Yes, and I think that was around.
He was in diapers for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, say all that to say that I remember when it first happened, all that came out or whatever, George Zimmerman stalking him and, him shooting him dead, so on and so forth. I remember just kind of bluntly saying, oh, he gonna get off on it. And then Skips was like, no, he's going to jail. Like, what are you talking about? He stalked a kid and killed him. I was like, nah. I was like, he's gonna get off. I was like, he killed a black kid. I was like, nobody cares. And then like she was like, no, he's gonna go to jail. It was like clearly.
Oh, God bless her innocence.
She was like, it's only obvious that what he did was wrong. Like, he's going to jail. And then the night that verdict came out, I remember Skips, we were watching Young Turks when it came out that George Zimmerman was found not guilty, so on and so forth. And Skips was sitting there watching the news thing, crying. And she was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, he killed a child. Like, how did he get away with it? I was like, because it was a black child. And the U.S. does not care about black children. And then it was like a come to Jesus moment where it was like, wow, like, you know, finally, like, I'm in a situation where that hit close to home. And so, because now she, you know, had a half
is carrying a half black child. Yeah. Oh my god!
And so it's one of those things where, and that's the reason why, and especially with America and with the race relations the way it is, you know, there are some people who are mad racist. Unfortunately, America is built on racism, but then there's also a lot of white people who just don't get it because they've never been through it. And to kind of take this full circle and do a little recap of where we've been since this is the rebranded show, and we're back on episode 1. And you know, I had been gone for a while, outside of working on weekends, and we could never link up to do a show. We talked about that on the previous show back in the day, or whatever, the legal issues I got into. And like I told you, that was the thing when I got into that legal trouble, which was amazing, was I had this minor offense and I was in doing these classes and all this stuff, whatever, with people who did much harsher stuff. And then there were some white soccer moms in there that, for instance, I told you about the one woman who she got like an extreme DUI. She ran into the curb while the cop was following her.
Fought the cop too, right?
And then the cop handcuffed her, and she fighting with the cop and arguing or whatever. And she was like, I didn't get any time in jail.
They let me go, matter of fact. You know what? He even gave me a drive to the house.
He gave me some Burger King on the way back to my house. And
yo, was that the fucking Charlotte shooter that they fucking gave Burger King to? Oh my god.
And then there was like another class I was in. It was interesting because it was like a small class. It was like 6 of us in there, and half of us were minorities and the other half were white people. All the minorities got jail time. All the white people got no jail time. And it was like, again, America. And this is again, I want Caucasians to understand this. White privilege doesn't mean that the road is paved with gold and you just have bank accounts that you can just dip and take all these millions of dollars.
It don't mean you're Trump.
Yeah, it just simply means that there are certain things that you don't have to worry about. And then there are systematic things in place that make it more difficult for other people. Again,
not your fault.
And it's just, life is difficult. Life is difficult. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. I don't care if you were born rich. I don't care if you were born poor, white, Mexican, gay. Life is hard for all of us. That's part of the challenge of living. But if you're a heterosexual white male in particular, there's a lot of roadblocks, a lot of speed bumps you don't have to run into. And that's all we're saying. We're not saying that, you know, you still get a pass, go to the end. No, it's just some road bumps you're not going to run into that the rest of us have to run into and still maintain the rest of this bullshit. So, message.
and I almost need to just reiterate it again, and maybe time and time again, because this happened with another coworker who we were having a discussion that was, you know, again, finally not playing devil's advocate. Is the combination between me and you, I think, because we are so like-minded, and even though you're the Gemini, I feel like I'm the one that has to jump on the fucking opposite trail just to fucking do one of these, and you know, along with it. And for those that are just listening and not watching this, I'm flipping off while I'm also doing jazz hands. And again, so when I had to take on that role without you as the voice of reason when it comes to consciousness, you know, little devil and little angel on your shoulders. So when you're not around, I felt obligated to be a good person. And so when doing that, I figured, oh, well, let me try to just interview different walks of life. And when and again, this guy, he's a little bit on the mixed spectrum because he's a Irishman from Boston. So, you know, and I don't know if you heard that episode or not, but for whatever reason, Irish people consider themselves the niggers of white people, which sounds terrible in its own essence, just saying it out loud. But then the fact that they acknowledge it, it's like, you know, they whatever. It really shows you the ranking system and how ingrained, you know, it is in our bloodstream. Anyways, so as I'm trying to again have this conversation with him, he's seeing it as, well, I'm not giving, you know, green lights every time, or, you know, I'm not making mega millions, but I had to explain to him, dude, if me and you were to get pulled over right now, because let's say we're drinking or something, I'm going to get hit with something heavier. It may not be too crazy drastic. It may not be something. It may be for me being too rambunctious and upset that, you know, for the audacity, again, depending on who's being the aggressor, that's just what's going to happen. And it just, he still didn't want to accept it. Yeah, and I'm not gonna fucking want to reenact an event just to fucking prove a point.
Yeah, exactly. I ain't trying to get no time for it, but no. And again, that's kind of the just where we're at in the world, and that's the reason why this whole Trump thing, this Trump nation that we're now a part of, is funny to me, because so you had Obama, the very first black president. So
you can say he kind of stirred all this shit up.
Trump in office is a direct result of Obama being in office. It's not Obama's fault, but this is America. This is how America works, and so this is how my brain, you know, grasps it. Obama gets in office, and people are like, "Oh, he got voted in just because he was black." A lot of people liked him. Oh, they just like him because he's black. You know, there's all these things or whatever where it has nothing to do with his ability, nothing to do with how he speaks, nothing to do with anything other than the fact of it's just that he's black. So then we move over to the 2016 elections, and then you get Trump, this unapologetic, strong white man, and then that's their guy. And then so now they're doing what they feel the rest of the world was doing. Oh, well, you just champion him because he was black. Like, we're going to champion him because he's our white savior now. And so I do think that it's the direct result of that. And so, and I've been a proponent of the whole time. Like, I voted for Obama both times, and I thought Obama was a pretty good president. Was he perfect? No. Not at all. And I talked a lot about how when it came to whistleblowers, he arrested the most whistleblowers ever during his administration. The Obamacare thing didn't quite work out.
And I felt bad for Snowden. That was done during Snowden was during Obama's thing, right?
Snowden,
so it's like, and that was one of the good guys, I would say.
Chelsea Manning, a whole bunch of all that all happened under Obama's reign. But so I was able to be a Democrat, vote for Obama, like him as a black man, like him, you know, as a president or whatever, and still criticize the things that he did. Like, no, he wasn't perfect. Oh, I like this, I don't like that. But then there's this blind patriotism behind Trump of, no, he can do no wrong. And we've seen it where that just happened recently with the Jim Acosta, the thing in CNN when they had that whole press conference, and the guy was trying to ask him questions, and Trump was getting all mad and walking away from his podium, and oh, that's a stupid question, and take the mic from him and all that.
Hey, didn't they kick his ass out of the fucking room? And I'm so sorry I threw another second F-bomb out there, but didn't they? And they took his badge away for his press badge?
I don't know if they kicked him out that day, but they did give him, they're saying that he can't come back to the press conferences, which is funny because the Republicans are championing this. Oh, you know, he was so rude, and he attacked a woman, and he did this and that. That's why he doesn't deserve to be there. But then we
over the Huckabee stuff or the Sarah Sanders stuff.
Yes, she said that. But if you go back in time, when Obama was in office, he had incidences where he was having a hard time with the Fox News people, and he talked about banning Fox News from coming to his press conference. It was like, oh my God, that's unconstitutional. See, that's the reason why he's Satan. That's why he's Satan, because he doesn't want the press in there to ask the hard questions. But then again, their guys doing it. It's like, oh, well, see, there's a reason why he could do that. But the last little thing, and then we can actually get into some stuff because we just been freestyling.
No, we're getting it good, man. This is good.
We getting there. But the thing that's hilarious is Trump today is out there in Europe doing some type of press conference, and how
big of a joke do you think it is out there?
What?
How big of a joke do you think it is out there when they see him trying to do?
Well, no, the funny part about it, to bring this all full circle, is that Trump is out there in Europe during this whole thing, and he doesn't control the media out there in Europe, so he can't control who comes to his press conferences. So guess who showed up to the press conference today? Jim Acosta.
Ooh.
You can ban me in America, but you can't touch me out here in Europe. Hi, bitches.
Hey, yo, that's a real, and see, and I guess, and that's where I feel like there really is no escape as far as in what the message is, as far as what we're trying to portray. No matter how bad we try to BS, I feel like that can happen everywhere. And to kind of go back to what you're mentioning about Obama being hard on the whistleblowers, which in a way I understand if it's gonna harness or mess with our safety and our precautions. In that same essence, though, ain't it a trip that the NSA again had all those leaks? That person happened to go on over to Russia. Russia happened to figure out how to get their liquid in the cracks and crevices that every every bit of armor is going to possibly have. So they're taking so many hits. Like, I don't know if any of those intersect together or if that's a part of the same timeline, but I feel like that's a trip, especially with all the midterm election stuff. And I don't know if we're going to go into that or not, but like there was so many of the stations that literally would have some kind of malfunction, some kind of, and I don't know if I told you this, I was working it for a little bit. Like I was being nosy. I was even looking up you and your dad's party just to, because I can only go off of name and date of birth, but and oh snap, I'm putting myself out there right now by admitting that, but no, a lot of the stuff though, I mean, was going allegedly, it just, I'm playing a character,
jokes on jokes.
No, but one of the things that messed me up, one of the places legit had a foreclosure the next freaking day. And surprise, surprise, the people who happened to be in a more impoverished kind of area couldn't go there to vote. What kind of BS is it?
If you didn't like this podcast, it's probably cause you're racist.
Yeah.
Fuck your feelings though.
Yeah. What's up, man? You hear me?